Welcome to Time Traveling Team, the podcast where we review every episode of Doctor Who right from the very beginning. I'm Paddy.
And I'm Tricia. This week we join the Doctor and Ace as they investigate the strange goings-on Terra Alpha in the Happiness Patrol. As usual, we'll be discussing the Doctor, companions and villains and giving our thoughts on the story as a whole.
We'd also love to hear your thoughts on this story. We really would. And to join in the discussion, you can check us out at our socials at Time Team. That's TIMETEAMP. Or you can email us at timetravelingteam@teamproductions.com. Now then, before I go into the story summary, we got a message from our long-term listener and good friend Paul, who agreed with Trish that he also thought I had said breed, B-R-E-E-D. I can't help the way that I speak, and not only can't I help it, I refuse to help it. Deal with it.
Yes, as I mentioned to Paul, I've been trying to correct that particular pattern of speech you have for over a decade.
Yep.
And it hasn't worked. So.
You can take the boy out of Kerry, but you can't take the Kerry out of the boy. There we go. Right. Now then, the story summary. Part 1. On an abandoned street at night time on the colony world of Terra Alpha, a sad-looking woman sits on a bench. A man emerges from the shadows and offers to talk to her, saying that they should leave before they are discovered. The woman says that she doesn't care if they are caught, but he says there's a sanctuary that they can go where they can feel free to express their emotions. When she seems intrigued by the idea, he introduces himself as Silas P. before revealing that he's actually a member of the secret police force known as the Happiness Patrol. A squad of ghastly pink-clad women with pink hair appear and execute the woman. Later, Silas receives a commendation from Helen A., the leader of the Happiness Patrol and ruler of the colony. She congratulates him on his service record, but warns him about ambition. Helen goes into her inner chambers, where her partner, Joseph C., is watching footage of the execution. She tells him to stop watching it and instead turn on the propaganda messages she has been broadcasting. Elsewhere, the TARDIS lands and the Doctor and Ace emerge to take a look at their surroundings. Ace expresses annoyance at the cheery music being played over the public tannoys and says the area seems kind of fake. The Doctor agrees, saying that he has heard unsettling rumours about Terra Alpha and that he has finally come to investigate it. They take a look around at the abandoned streets before they finally encounter a colonist. The man, who says his name is Trevor and works for the Galactic Census Bureau, asks who they are, insisting that they give him their real names when they introduce themselves. They insist that those are their real names before Ace draws the Doctor's attention to a bullet hole riddled bench. The Doctor says that they need to stop whatever is going on, but first need to get themselves arrested. They go back to the TARDIS, where they see several members of the Happiness Patrol painting it a bright pink. The head of the group, Daisy K., demands to know if they are upset, and the Doctor says that they are just admiring the work. Ace comments on the bizarre-looking weapon Daisy is carrying, and she gives a quick demonstration as to show its lethality. Daisy demands to know if they are killjoys, but when they say they are travellers, she orders them to stay in the specific tourist areas. She goes to leave, but the Doctor, seeing an opportunity to be arrested, comments on the fact that they never received their visitor badges when they arrived. Daisy, now thinking that they are actually spies, orders them to be arrested so that the Doctor can be dealt with and that Ace can potentially be inducted into the Happiness Patrol. They are then brought to a detention centre where they encounter a man working on a game machine. When he wins, a video of Helen appears who tells a joke as his prize. The Doctor comments on the poor quality of the joke, and the man, who says his name is Harold V., says that he wrote it, revealing that he worked for Helen prior to his imprisonment. He says that he was in prison for investigating his brother's disappearance and attempting to contact Terra Omega, Terra Alpha's sister colony. Ace says that the area doesn't feel like a prison, and the Doctor asks the guard, Priscilla, if they can leave. She says that it isn't a prison, but if they attempt to cross the boundary line, they will be killed. The Doctor then goes to Harold and asks him what constitutes a crime on Terra Alpha. Harold says anything not construed as cheerful is punishable, whether it be dark clothes, sad music, or walking in the rain. He also says that Helen employs someone named the Candyman, who he says experiments on prisoners. He says that if people aren't killed by a firing squad, they are sent to the Candyman's lab, also known as the Candy Kitchen. Ace asks if it was time to go, and the Doctor says that it is. Suddenly, Harold screams in pain as a surge of electricity from the machine, having been sent from Helen's command room as she watches him, kills him. Priscilla starts making poor taste jokes, and the Doctor holds back a furious Ace, who vows to punish them all. Ace spots a strange cart near the boundary line, and the Doctor asks Priscilla what would happen if they used it to leave. Priscilla says that nothing would happen, and the Doctor confirms to Ace that it is most likely booby-trapped. They take a look at it, and the Doctor, despite Ace's attempts to help, manages to disarm it. Ace then drives them out of the detention area. Unfortunately, the car breaks down after a while, and the Doctor attempts to repair it. Hearing someone coming, Ace goes to distract him and encounters the squad of the Happiness Patrol. She surrenders, saying that she wants to take the trial to join the patrol. Daisy tells the others to take Ace while she searches for the doctor. She spots him just as he finishes repairing the cart, and he drives away as she opens fire at him. At the Happiness Patrol barracks, Ace auditions in front of one of them, Susan, but to no real success. However, Susan expresses dissatisfaction with life in the patrol and on Terra Alpha. Ace tries to comfort her and says that she despises the idea of the patrol. Susan then gives her a key and tells her to escape, closing her eyes as Ace leaves. However, as she flees through the streets, she is captured again by Daisy. Meanwhile, the cart breaks down again and the doctor spots a man on a park bench and asks if he knows how to get to Helen. Unbeknownst to him, the man is Silas, who tells him that Helen is very dangerous. The doctor asks why no one stands up to her, but Silas says they all live in fear of the Happiness Patrol and the Candyman. He then reveals his true identity and arrests the doctor and calls for support. However, another man emerges from the shadows and knocks out Silas before fleeing with the doctor. They then watch from the shadows as a squad of Happiness Patrol arrive and execute Silas as he expresses brief frustration at having been knocked out. The man introduces himself as Earl, a medical student traveling as a musician who has been stranded on Terra Alpha. He says that they should leave before they are found out, but the doctor says that he wants to meet the Candyman. They eventually find his underground lab and take a look around. They quickly hide when they hear someone approaching, and they then see the Candyman, an 8-foot-tall android made out of various confectionery, and his assistant Gilbert. They are spotted by Gilbert and they attempt to flee, but the Candyman seals off the lab, trapping them inside. Part 2. The Candyman has Gilbert tie up the doctor and Earl as he excitedly explains the nature of his experiments. He says that he creates various sweets and treats with which he kills Helen's prisoners. The doctor then tries to distract the Candyman by asking him more about these executions. The Candyman says that the sweets, in fondant form, travel through pipes into a holding area where they smother the unsuspecting victim. The doctor asks if there is any way of reversing the process once it has started, and the Candyman says that there is, but he refuses to elaborate further and continues to prepare for the execution. The doctor, spotting a bottle of lemonade nearby, asks the Candyman what he is made of. When he explains his various components, the doctor says that he must be extremely vulnerable to heat and says that there is an open oven behind him. The Candyman panics and knocks over the bottle, causing it to smash open and liquid to splash all over his sherbet-based feet, causing them to stick to the floor. The Candyman screams for Gilbert as the doctor and Earl escape through a nearby tunnel. Meanwhile, as Ace is led back through the streets, she spots a protest demonstration, and Daisy said it is made up of workers from outside the city. She gleefully says that all of them will be punished later, and then has Ace gagged as she calls out in solidarity with the protesters. She is brought back to another detention area where she is again guarded by Priscilla. Priscilla begins to search through Ace's belongings and sees a can of Nitro 9. Recognizing it as an explosive, she reminisces on her time in the anti-terrorist squad of the Happiness Patrol and of all the people that she killed. They are then joined by Susan, who has been arrested for subversion. Ace apologizes for getting her into trouble, but Susan calmly says that it was bound to happen sooner or later. She says that she is prepared to die, but Ace vows to free them both. Back in the lab, Gilbert arrives and the Candyman tries to punish Gilbert if he doesn't help free him. Gilbert defiantly reminds the Candyman that he needs Gilbert in order to survive, and the Candyman relents. Meanwhile, down in the tunnels, the Doctor and Earl are captured by a group of diminutive reptilian creatures. The creatures, who seem to be monosyllabic, demand the Doctor and Earl hand over their weapons, but they say that they have none. Earl then shows his harmonica, and when he plays it, the creatures show appreciation by echoing language reminiscent of Ace's. The Doctor realizes that they must have seen her and asks where she is. At that moment, in the holding area, Ace watches as Susan is taken away to be executed, and she angrily berates Priscilla for her callous attitude. Suddenly, one of the creatures appears and calls for Ace as it throws a spear at Priscilla. Ace uses the distraction to escape with the creature as Priscilla fires after them. Her escape is reported to Helen, who says that she will unleash Fifi, her dog-like pet, to hunt them down. Down in the tunnels, the Doctor and Earl are led to an access hatch that brings them up to the street. When they emerge, they are met by Trevor, who again tries to take their details for the census. The Doctor confuses him by asking the same census questions before asking to be taken to see Helen. Earl says he needs to go, and the Doctor promises to meet him later. As Earl leaves, he plays the harmonica, which causes Trevor to become wistful at the melancholic music. Trevor brings the Doctor to Helen's office, where she informs the bureaucrat that they have successfully reduced the population down as requested. When the Doctor asks if she used the correct processes, she says that she used her own methods. She then gets a call from inside her inner office and goes to answer it. The doctor sneaks in after her and confronts her over her totalitarian regime, but quickly leaves when she calls for security. The doctor then makes his way down the streets where he encounters Earl. He says that he needs to go back to the Candyman's lab, but Earl tells him that the area is being watched by snipers, who were deployed to attack the protest. The doctor says that he will deal with them, and he manages to sneak up on the snipers. He goads one of the snipers into trying to kill him, but the man cannot bring himself to do it, intimidated by the doctor's menacing demeanour. Meanwhile, Ace and her rescuer are discovered by Fifi, who chases after them through the tunnels. Ace uses one of her cans of Nitro 9 to injure Fifi, allowing them to escape. However, the creature begins to panic as the tunnel begins to vibrate as the fondant is pumped through the pipes for an execution, which unbeknownst to them is for Susan. As they rush through the tunnels, Ace accidentally falls down a chute, which lands her in the execution chamber next to Susan. Elsewhere, the doctor arrives at the lab to find the Candyman still stuck to the floor. He offers to release the Candyman if he promises to divert the flow of the fondant. The Candyman agrees and alters the flow of the fondant, which misses Susan and Ace. The Candyman says that he's fulfilled his part of the bargain and will now kill the doctor. However, the doctor quickly sprays him with more lemonade, causing him to stick to the floor again. The Candyman screams for Gilbert as the doctor escapes. In her office, Helen angrily demands that the pipe be reset, but she is stopped by Trevor, who says that according to law, if an execution fails, then the method of the execution can no longer be used. However, fearing for his own safety, he says another method can be used. Ace and Susan are brought to the office where she tells them that they will be subjected to an audition at an area called the Forum. Back on the streets, the doctor encounters Earl and says that he needs to go find Ace. Just then, the Observer member of the Happiness Patrol put up a poster of her indicating her performance at the Forum. The doctor tells Earl to find the protesters and bring them to the Forum. He then goes to a nearby kiosk to get more information about the Forum, and he then watches alarmedly as another member of the Happiness Patrol paints RIP on a poster of another performer, indicating what will happen to Ace. Part 3. The worker at the information kiosks says that Ace has been scheduled to perform in a miracle survival act, meaning that it will be a miracle if she survives. The doctor then makes his way to the Forum. Meanwhile, in her office, Helen tends to the wounded Fifi before ordering the Happiness Patrol to eliminate the protesters. She vows to destroy anyone that will disturb her perfect society. After ensuring Fifi's wounds are healed, she sends it back down into the tunnels to eliminate the creatures. The doctor arrives at the Forum and meets Trevor, who says that he is departing for his next assignment. He shows the doctor the results of the census, which shows that a massive number of people have disappeared since the last census 6 months ago. Trevor then leaves, and a short while later Earl arrives, saying that the protesters will be there shortly. Just then, Ace and Susan are marched in by the Happiness Patrol led by Daisy. Ace tells the doctor to run as Daisy prepares to shoot him, but he then begins to shout ecstatically, saying that they can't hurt him as he's acting happy and it will break their laws to do so. Earl then leads the protesters in, who begin to celebrate, and the doctor laughs dementedly as he says the Happiness Patrol are now the Killjoys. Gilbert and Priscilla arrive in a cart, and Priscilla aims her weapons at Daisy and the patrol members, but is forced to let Ace and Susan go when they follow the doctor's lead. The doctor and Ace, along with Susan and Earl, then get into the cart and drive off. Elsewhere, Helen and Joseph are waiting for Fifi to return when they hear about the events at the Forum. Helen angrily tells Joseph to wait while she goes to stop the fighting. She goes to her office and contacts the detention area where Priscilla is guarding Daisy as she plays the joke machine. She then orders Priscilla to let Daisy go and wait for further instructions. Meanwhile, the doctor and Ace go back into the tunnels where they encounter the creatures who are fleeing from Fifi. The doctor tells them to keep going whilst he leads Ace back to the Candyman's lab. They enter a tunnel while the doctor tells them to be quiet, indicating to the precariously loose stalactites that have formed from the crystallized fondant remains. He tells Susan and Ace to go ahead whilst he and Earl lure Fifi after them, using Earl's harmonica to attract it. They then rush for cover when Fifi enters the tunnel, and its howls cause the stalactites to fall on it, crushing it. In her office, Helen and Daisy receive reports of guards joining in the protesters in riots, destroying factories around the colony. Helen tells Daisy to summon Priscilla, saying that her experience in anti-terrorism will help them. However, when they open the video link to the detention area, they see that she has been captured by Earl and Susan. Angrily, Helen calls the Candyman and tells him to find and destroy the doctor. However, the Candyman reveals that he and Ace are already there. The doctor distracts the Candyman whilst Ace heats up a nearby poker and threatens him with it. The Candyman goes to attack him, but the doctor gets around him and drives him away by lighting the gas oven, which shoots a jet of flame out at the android. The Candyman retreats to safety in the tunnels, whilst the Doctor leads Ace back to the detention area. After they go, the creatures emerge and activate the fondant pipes, which engulfs the fleeing Candyman. His metallic remains are washed into the execution chamber, where Gilbert and Joseph are talking. Gilbert reveals that he created the Candyman after he arrived in Terra Alpha after being exiled for creating a virus that wiped out half his world. He says that he built the Candyman to assist him, but he developed his own maniacal personality and became loyal to Helen. Joseph asks if he will rebuild it, but Gilbert says no, and then he intends to leave Terra Alpha. Later, in her office, Helen packs her belongings and prepares to make her way to an emergency shuttle. However, to her surprise, she sees it has already taken off. Suddenly an incoming call comes through from the shuttle, and she sees that Gilbert took it with Joseph's help. She then tries to make her way through the streets, trying to find another shuttle. She is confronted by the Doctor, who berates her for her totalitarian regime, which she continually insists was just to make people happy. She says that she did her best for them, but there were still dissenters no matter what she did, and that is why she created the Happiness Patrol. The Doctor says that true happiness cannot exist without sadness to give it purpose. Helen refuses to listen to him and vows to start again somewhere else. Just then, a dying Fifi emerges from the tunnels, and a distraught and weeping Helen cradles its body. Later, the former members of the Happiness Patrol have been rounded up and set to work repairing the damage of the riots. The Doctor and Ace say goodbye to Susan and Earl and the creatures. Before they go, Ace finishes repainting the TARDIS and asks the Doctor if everything will be all right now. The Doctor gives her a smile and says that happiness will prevail. End of the story.
Very good, very good.
So, we have now come to the trivia section, where Trish will give us the insight into the most bizarre episode of Doctor Who we've ever discussed.
Potentially, yeah. Look, let's jump into it. So, the air date of this story was the 2nd to the 16th of November, 1988. The writer of the story was Graham Curry. This is his only Doctor Who writing credit. I wonder why. He also wrote the novelization for this story, and he actually has a cameo as a tourist in Silver Nemesis. Graham passed away in 2019. The director of the story is Chris Clough. This is story 5 of 6 for Chris. We previously saw his work in Terror of the Vervoid, The Ultimate Foe, Delta and the Bannerman, and Dragonfire, and we'll see his work again in Silver Nemesis. This story had the working title of The Crooked Smile, with this also appearing as the title of a local news sheet read by some of the characters. During William Hartnell's era, there had been a proposal for a story called The Jokers, and while the plot was similar, it was actually kind of the opposite concept, where laughter was forbidden, and being serious was the law. Well, obviously the story is the other way around. In the scenes that are set in the underground tunnels in part 3, the Candyman has no metal brace around his mouth. I don't know if you paid any attention to that. This was added later to the costume following the initial recordings to try to disguise the features of the actor inside the fucking licorice all sorts. The character of Helen A was intended to satirize Margaret Thatcher. I think it's kind of obvious that that's what they were going for, if you're familiar with the Thatcher era of UK politics. The character would say, "I like your initiative, your enterprise," while her secret police rounded up dissidents. Very much sort of satirizing Thatcher in that way. In the story, the Doctor persuades the drones who toil in the factories and mines to down tools, rise up in revolt, that echoes the miners' strikes and the printers' disputes during Thatcher's era. Sheila Hancock actually only accepted the role of Helen A if she could play her as Thatcher, whom Sheila hated with an unrivaled passion. The howl of Fifi, Helen A's pet, was actually the modulated sound of Chris Clough's own voice. So that's how they got that sound.
Interesting.
According to Sylvester McCoy in an interview with Doctor Who magazine, the story was originally planned to be filmed in black and white. Sylvester said he hadn't known that when it was being filmed, he only found out after, and had he known, he would have begged the production team to continue to film in black and white, as he thought the sets were lacking and the black and white would have added a bit more to it. Which I do kind of agree on. I'll talk about that later on. The Candyman. Okay. So, I mean, people either don't remember this story or they remember the Candyman. I think that's the only two options you have, right? How did he come to be? So he came about when Graham Curry thought of candy, or sweets as we would call them, as a way that modern society latched on to ephemeral pleasures. So sweets and candy, they're treats that we give ourselves. They're indulgences and stuff like that. The Candyman was originally human in appearance and was envisaged as a cheerful but bored killer, as opposed to one who was cruel and zealous. The fact that he was made out of sweets was rather subtle originally, chiefly being exhibited through him having white powdery skin, a bit like dusting powder or like a marshmallow sort of texture type thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, Chris and Jonathan Turner wanted him to look more robotic. Surprise, Graham Curry disliked the final design.
I wonder why.
And used his original concept when he did the novelization for the story in 1990. Apparently, and I'm going to say apparently on this one because, I mean, we'll see. Apparently, the design was inspired by the Michelin Man, like the tire mascot who's made of white tires. However, as comes as a surprise to probably no one, after part 2 aired, H.B. Bev Stokes, the chairman and CEO of Bassett Foods, wrote a letter of complaint to John Nathan Turner, stating that the Candyman infringed on the copyright for his company's mascot, Bertie Bassett, otherwise known as the All Sorts Man, a man made of licorice all sorts. A representative of the BBC Copyright Department replied, saying that there had been no violation of Bassett's copyright, but assured the company that the Candyman would not return to the series.
I'm still kind of...
I don't get like how it's meant to be like, maybe the original concept of like a humanoid with like a white powder, I can see that being kind of Michelin Man-esque, like if he was meant to be made of marshmallows.
I don't get, like, in what world did people think that he looks like the fucking licorice, the Michelin Man? I'm sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's the original concept, was meant to be Michelin Man-esque. So humanoid, but like with white skin.
Mm-hmm.
And my vibe when I hear humanoid, I'm thinking marshmallow.
Yeah.
Which is Michelin Man thing. Also, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
So I see that, but like, I mean, he's literally made of licorice all sorts. Like, literally. I'm surprised the BBC wasn't sued within an inch of their lives. Because for anyone who's not familiar with licorice all sorts, they're horrid. I fucking hate licorice in general. But licorice all sorts are just like, even the bits surrounding the licorice isn't nice either. Like, oh. Anyway. But like, it's not just the fact that he looks like he's made of sweets. The sweets he's made of. So like the blue pimply head thing.
Yeah.
And then his yellow, or he's got like a red torso piece. And then he's got like a red or a yellow and black sort of belly piece. They're very clearly...
Yes, it is licorice all sorts.
Licorice all sorts. Like, there is nothing else they could be.
No.
It's not that they're just like generic candy. They're very clearly the same design as a licorice all sorts.
Look at his fucking fingers. They're just like a stack of...
They're just stacks of licorice all sorts, honestly.
Christ,
it's bananas. I don't get how they got away with it. Interestingly, Rowan Williams, the, I believe, former Archbishop of Canterbury, referred to this story in his 2011 Easter sermon on the subject of happiness and joy. Like,
okay.
In the original script, the story took place over several weeks, as opposed to the single night that it is on the show. To compensate for the action now being compressed into a single night, Graham Curry decided to have Helene's regime already kind of crumbling at the start of the adventure, whereas originally it was meant to be a bit more gradual. Mm-hmm. And had they had 4 episodes and not 3, they maybe could have gotten a bit more out of that.
Possibly. There's another element in this that, like, I think I'll get into, like, in my overall, but I think with the 3-episode runtime, there's something in there that they could have gotten rid of, I think.
Yeah. The script originally contained a prison area called Arcadia,
Mm.
which had dozens of what in the UK they call fruit machines, so dozens of those sort of
One-armed bandits.
slot machines.
Yeah.
And an elaborate go-kart game. But because of budgetary restrictions, this was all replaced with the far simpler and, slight spoilers, in my opinion, far stupider waiting zone, which had one fruit machine and a go-kart designed to blow up.
Yeah.
Also in the original script, Ace actually tricked Susan Q into helping her escape instead of Susan doing so willingly. Earth Sigma originally played the trumpet, but Richard D. Sharp couldn't play the trumpet. So he was changed to be a harmonica player since it would be less conspicuous that he was simply miming along with the soundtrack. To be honest, he mimes quite well some of the times, not so much all the times.
No. But given the context of how the story goes, I think the harmonica is a much better instrument for what he represents.
It's also more subtle for him to carry around.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this story was intended to be the fourth and final story of season 25, but the season was reshuffled to ensure that part 1 of Silver Nemesis was broadcast on the exact day of Doctor Who's 25th anniversary, after the premiere of the season was delayed for a week by the BBC's coverage of the 1988 Summer Olympics. Graham Curry suggested that the music he loathed should be heard all over Terra Alpha in order to emphasise the fake, antiseptic nature of Hellenae society. Furthermore, the narrative initially took place over several weeks, as I said, as the Doctor gradually took down the government. One degree that was compressed down to a single night was decided to have strong through line of the blues music, since there was concern that the music might be too annoying and distracting for viewers. Yeah. In post-production, all 3 episodes were found to be overrunning severely, and a number of cuts were made. So this is interesting to see what you would have cut as well. I'm guessing it's a tall guy with a blue face, but whatever. These included a scene in which the Candyman sliced off his own finger, only to calmly reattach it. Susan Q revealing that she was demoted from Susan L because of a smuggled blues record. The Doctor fleeing the candy kitchen at the start of episode 2, but returning to rescue the captive Earl. And Ace and Susan Q using sniper fire to effect an unsuccessful escape from Daisy K and the Happiness Patrol early in part 3. Also removed was the Candyman being overwhelmed by fondant in the Doom pipe. Cuff was dissatisfied with the execution of the shot, so they just took it out. Episode 2 originally ended with Daisy K telling Ace that it was showtime, and the scene was moved to the start of part 3, so Daphne S's face, the RIP in pink paint, became the cliffhanger. With many of the sets consisting of streets and exterior buildings, Chris Clough found it challenging to plan interesting camera angles. To compensate, he wanted to give the adventure a film noir feel by using various off-kilter and tilted perspectives. This was vetoed by John Nathan Turner, who worried that audiences would find the technique too disorientating. So they'd find cinematic techniques too disorientating.
Yeah.
But we're fine with the licorice all sorts meant.
Once again, fuck John Nathan Turner.
It was thought for a time that the Pie People might be achieved using puppets. However, 8 child actors were hired instead to play the roles in costume. Conversely, Fifi was originally going to be played by an actor, but when the character became so small, Jonathan Turner then switched it over to being a puppet. It's quite a cool puppet, actually.
It is. It's really, really cool.
It's very Henson-esque.
Yes.
I think if you compare it to the poor dog in what was the episode of Star Trek the original series? The one with the salt monster.
The Man Trap?
Yeah. Very different. There was some debate over the ending. So Graham Curry opted for Helen A crying over Fifi's body to show the necessity for negative emotions, while John and Chris both favoured the characters walking off into the sunset. It's an interesting thing. This is the last story produced entirely in studio, including like minisodes and stuff like that, until Boom over 35 years later. So this is a very very long break of just studio.
As in the Shooty Gabba episode, boom.
Yes.
Okay.
Sheila Hancock later described the story as weird and remarked that her performance would not get her listed on anyone's roster of great performances. However, I will say, when doing the Behind the Sofa, she seemed to have great memories of it.
Okay.
And she seemed to have found it really fun to make, which is nice.
Good.
So let's go into our cast super quick. So as Helen A, we have, as I mentioned, Dame Sheila Hancock. This is Sheila's only on-screen credit for Doctor Who, though she did also do a little bit of audio work for Doctor Who as well. Outside of Doctor Who, Sheila is an icon of stage and screen, with her credits including Carry On Cleo, Three Men and a Little Lady, It's Sheila Hancock, Asterix and the Big Fight, Inspector Morse, The World of Peter Rabbit and Friends, Alice in Wonderland. She was also on The Catherine Tate Show, and she was in The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. Daisy Kay was played by Georgina Hale. This is the only Doctor Who acting credit for Georgina. Her non-Who credits include Holby City, Hollyoaks, Emmerdale, The Bill, and Gems. Georgina passed away in 2024. Priscilla P. is played by Rachel Bell. Only Doctor Who acting credit for Rachel. Her non-Who credits include The Darling Buds of May, Dear John, Grange Hill, and Doctors. Susan Q is played by Leslie Dunlop. These names are just letters and losing all meaning. So Susan Q is played by Leslie Dunlop. This is the second and final Doctor Who credit for Leslie. We previously saw her in Frontios, and her non-Who credits include The Elephant Man, A Little Night Music, and May to December. The Candyman is played by David John Pope. Only Doctor Who acting credit for David. His non-Who credits include Star Cops, Casualty, Bergerac, London's Burning, and The Bill. The other characters we're not going to discuss individually, but just to give you a bit of a rundown of the casting. So Joseph C. is played by Ronald Fraser. Only Doctor Who acting credit for Ronald. His non-Who credits include Black Ice, The Punch and Judy Man, Fallen Angels, Pennies from Heaven, Brightside Revisited, and Fortunes of War. Ronald passed away in 1997. Gilbert M. is played by Harold Innocent. Only on-screen Doctor Who credit for Harold. He also did some Doctor Who audio work. His non-Who credits include Brazil, Henry V, Malice Aforethought, and most people probably recognise him from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes.
Harold passed away in 1993. Trevor Sigma is played by John Normington. Second and final appearance for John. We previously saw and discussed John back in the caves of Androzani. And lastly, as Earl Sigma, we have Richard D. Sharp, as I mentioned earlier. Only Doctor Who acting credit for Richard. His non-Who credits include Mission Impossible, Life Force, and Spies Like Us.
Oh, Spies Like Us is a great movie. Also, the one that plays Priscilla, so she's in The Darling Buds of May, and she plays a character that was being courted by a confidence trickster played by Julian Glover. It's a really good episode.
I'm convinced I know her from something else, but I went through her IMDb and I couldn't identify anything else. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, her face looks so familiar. And maybe just from like The Darling Buds of May being on when I was younger.
Yeah.
But like, she looks so familiar.
I've actually started watching episodes of Darling Buds of May again recently enough. It's such a good show. It's so wonderfully 90s. Kidoki.
Rightio then. We have done story summary.
Yes.
Thank you, Paddy. We have done trivia. Thank you, me. And now it is on to our character discussion.
Yeah.
For those of you who are only first joining us, this is the way that we go. We do recap the story, talk about some trivia, and then the core part of our discussion is going to be the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So we discussed the Doctor, as played by Sylvester McCoy. The companions, in this case, that is just Ace herself.
Yes.
Then occasionally we will have a prominent character section. In this case, that's the Happiness Patrol, specifically Susan Q, Priscilla P, and Daisy K.
Mm-hmm.
I got those letters right.
Yep.
And then we have the villains, who are the Candyman and Helen A. As I said, we won't be discussing the other guys. We just included them for trivia purposes. So the way it goes is the person who reads out the little social cue is the person who gets to go first.
Yes.
So, Paddy, that is you. So I put the question to you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the Doctor in the Happiness Patrol?
So, What I will say is that in terms of a performance by Sylvester, I think it's great. I think this is a really good uh, Sylvester performance, and I do have certain issues with the sets and some of the cinematography, but parts of the cinematography and parts of the like the set in specifically the set lighting really adds to Sylvester's performance in certain parts of it. So I think it's a performance, it's great. I really, really enjoyed it. Now that leads me into saying that it's why I like it in terms of the performance is because of the Doctor's darker nature coming to the fore. Even though he's like through like the very kind of joyful actions, like the bit where he's on the forum steps and he's laughing maniacally, saying they can't hurt me because it goes against their code, and he's like, it's almost like the Joker, like the DC character of the Joker. His standoff with the snipers is the bit there which I think is really, really well done. Because he's not shouting, he's not, and he's not towering over the guy because obviously Sylvester has a shorter stature, but he's just so intimidating. Like the way that the lighting is under his face, and this is we saw the seeds of it in the previous episode. Now we're starting to see it a bit more coming true. I think the music as well, I think the incidental music, not the music, but the incidental music kind of helped with that type of thing as well. I liked his interactions with Earl because, like, the bit where they're both on the street busking, like Earl playing the harmonica and Sylvester's playing the spoons. I like that. But I also liked how the Doctor communicates a lot with Earl through, like, through jazz and blues speak. Like, just like they're, I really I like blues music, and I like how the blues music was used in this for the whole emotional aspect of it. Because whenever there's a scene of someone trying to like deal with their emotions versus like the existence of being on Terra Alpha, that's when you hear Earl's music on in the background. I think that's really, really well done. So, and I think the bits where like Sylvester kind of reminds me a small bit of Tom, a bit there, like where Earl is playing and the Doctor comes up to him and he says, like, like that sounds like a tree brandy jazz to me or whatever. And he has that kind of Tom smile on his face. I like his bits with Ace because again, it's like very First Doctor and Vicky parent, or like, teacher, like sorry, mentor and mentee type thing. And obviously they're separated for a large portion of the story. So the bits that they're together, like it's nice to see that thing develop. But overall I think it's a good outing from Sylvester this time around. How about you?
Yeah, so I think it's a good performance from Sylvester. I I think the run order for this season, I think this Doctor is a bit. You said that it's a good progression from last story into this story. I actually think that this is a little bit of a step back from the Doctor that we saw in the last story.
Okay.
In my mind, in terms of the Doctor's progression, it would, for me, kind of go Dragonfire, this, and then last time. I think there's still a little bit of the pratfally nature,
Mm-hmm.
sort of heightened in this story compared to last. But Sylvester's performance is still amazing. And I think, part of the performance, the sort of pratfally nature stuff, maybe because we have the same director as Dragonfire.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of that carrying through as well. I agree with you. I think the scene with the snipers was done really, really well. I think Sylvester played that really, really well. It was very calm, very deliberate. You could argue that like it's sort of a little bit like a death wish, but I don't. But Sylvester just told the line that was more confidence than anything else. He had read them right. He knew what was going to happen, which was very good. The one character that I found his interactions a bit interesting with was the census guy.
Trevor.
Trevor. I don't know why. I kind of wanted more of the Doctor sort of taking Trevor to task about the fact that, like, Trevor knows that that Helena is executing people. Like, he knows that. And he knows that that's not what Galactic Center recommended as a population control measure. So I kind of expected the Doctor to sort of call him out a bit more. I mean, I get they had their moment on the steps at the end, where Trevor sort of implies that he didn't really know why he'd been brought there, and clearly Galactic Center was having a bigger investigation that Trevor wasn't entirely aware of. But I kind of wanted more of the Doctor and Trevor in terms of how he reacted to him. I really do like, though, the dynamic that the Doctor had with Earl. I thought that was really lovely. I liked that they sort of went away and came back to each other sort of time and again. I thought it was really, really nice. I also like the appreciation he had for Earl's music. Again, you know, the 3-Star Brandy Blues and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really nicely well done. In terms of anything negative about Sylvester's performance, I can't really think of anything other than, for me, in running order, this feels more early Sylvester than last week. But again, I think that's mostly down to the direction probably from Chris, and him maybe not being aware of how much the Doctor had lost some of the slapstick from previous stories.
Yeah.
But then again, it's also kind of needed here, so it's a bit of a weird one. The Doctor versus the Candyman is also an interesting thing. I kind of wish they'd done more than just have him freeze his feet using fucking lemonade twice. But at least you sort of see it hinted at when he grabs the lemonade dispenser later on. It sort of ties together stuff like that. So I agree with you. I think for Sylvester, it was a good performance. I don't think it was, and again, slight spoiler, I think it was the strongest story for him. But Sylvester played it well. And I don't think there's any scene that I thought that Sylvester was phoning it in and stuff like that. I think the dynamic with Ace in the scenes that they had together was quite good. And again, I'll talk about this more when I talk about Ace, but like, I like the fact that, like, the Doctor kind of trusts her to sort of do her own thing. Like, he worries about her, obviously, but it's not that he's like panicking over where is she and stuff like that. Like, he just says we need to get arrested, and they're just playing off each other. Do you know what I mean? And he lets her play along. The only time when he gets a little bit frustrated with her is obviously when he's trying to defuse the bomb, because Ace loves bombs. Yeah. But that's an understandable frustration. Other than that, though, their dynamic works really well, and I like how he only has to say one line and she gets on his wavelength. Do you know what I mean? And they play off each other really, really nicely. It's a really comfortable dynamic, and like I said, very similar to the first Doctor and Vicky, with more of a modern feel to it.
Yeah. And like, there's two other things I was going to just briefly say there. One is back to Sylvester himself. He's not a bad singer. When he does his little croony version of As Time Goes By, quite nice. And but I think at the end, so last week we had the whole thing of Ace kind of in a very childlike, uncertain fashion. We do a good thing? And the Doctor said, like, time will tell. I mean, that's sort of like, I'm not promising you anything. Here, though, it's a bit more upbeat, where she goes like, you know, will everything be all right? Like, do we do good? And he's like going, happiness will prevail. And it's like, it's a nice moment. Again, like, it's just very kind of blink and you miss it type thing at the very end, because it's the last couple of seconds of the show, like, which case you might be kind of tuning out. But I think it's a nice reassurance to give, especially after what happened at the end of the last story.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it works. It works really well there. But yeah, so then we're on to Ace. So what do you think of Ace this time around?
So I think it's a good showing from Ace, even though, like, there's not much plot driving from her side of things, as compared to last week, shall we say. But it's, again, she's doing the job of what a good companion should do, which is we get to explore the world through her. And like her scene specifically with Susan, I like that, because we get to see like that. And it's one thing that I think did the makeup department give up like halfway through, because like you see certain characters have like the really very visible delineation between their regular face and like the painted on makeup aspect of it. It's almost like a weird circle versus some of the people that look like everything is like very natural. And but like, it just shows that there's like not all is hunky dory in the world of the Happiness Patrol.
Mm.
And now there's one thing at the very end that I kind of got taken aback by, kind of confused, is that I thought it was just the Happiness Patrol women that wear those outfits and have that kind of weird quiffy hairstyle. But no, the protesters, once they take off their protest clothes, you can actually see a load of what look like Happiness Patrol members, or ones that look like they're in the Happiness Patrol there. But no, I liked her scenes with Susan because, and I liked her scenes with you were shouting solidarity to the protesters and being gagged and all this type of stuff. I liked the creatures when like they started echoing her language, which was like I know my thoughts about that will come in the overall, but I just thought it was kind of funny. It's like the sense of like Ace is their new messiah type character. Like hear her holy word. But
Gordon Bennett.
Gordon Bennett and Wicked. But I think more so than anything, we really get to see again just how good of an actress Sophie is, because we're reminded again that Ace is still just a teenager, and it's through some of Sophie's body language and some of her facial expressions, like when she sees like what she perceives to be an injustice or something that really, really angers her. And now, some of Ace's dialogue at times feels very cliched, but I think the physical performance kind of makes up for it. And it's one of the reasons why I really like one of the reasons why I really like Ace is because I think Sophie is acting her really, really well. And so like even in stories where she doesn't do a whole lot to drive a lot of the plot, her just Ace being there and seeing the world around us or around her, Sophie does a really good job of bringing it to life, I think. So again, obviously it's not, I won't say it's as good as last week because I don't know if we'll reach the rambling, but I still think it's a good story for Ace fans to watch.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as a performance from Sophie, you can tell she's really comfortable in the role.
Yeah.
She has really settled in quite nicely, which is great. As I mentioned, like the dynamic between her and the Doctor is really good in this one. Because we can see how well they bounce off of each other. Again, he just says we need to get arrested, and she's immediately playing into it. Immediately trying to get on the goat of the Happiness Patrol when he's like, "Oh, we're meant to have badges." She's like, "Oh, I have badges." And he's like, "Oh, fuck it, of course we have badges." the little eye roll, but it's her playing into the sequence, which I really, really love. One of the things I like about this story for Ace is it really is the most like anti-Ace place in the universe.
Oh yeah.
Bright pink coloring, false happiness, all the things Ace would fucking hate. This is like anti-Ace planet. Do you know what I mean? And so it's nice to see her standing up for not just herself, but for human nature in a way. But also the fact that a lot of the human connection that we see through Ace. Because Ace is the one who has actual people conversations with the members of the Happiness Patrol.
Yeah.
You know, how can you live with yourself? Find out the history of Priscilla P. And obviously talking to Susan and stuff like that. So I like the fact that, again, Ace is kind of like our emotional input character. I know we have obviously the Doctor and Earl, but Earl is just so mellow that I don't think you really get a sort of emotional vibe from him. Whereas it really is Ace providing the emotional heart of it. particularly her sort of need to fight for justice and her need to stand up to tyranny and stuff like that, which is really, really great to see. I did notice a moment. Does she have teeny tiny like little like Adam West Batman earrings on, or was that my imagination?
I'm not sure. 1 second. Let me see. Ace and the Happiness Patrol. Looking up images. 1 second. Well, it's hard to get a good screenshot of her.
Yeah.
I'll keep looking, but go on.
Yeah. I love her trying to play the spoons.
That was
great.
That was great.
It's such a lovely like nod to her time with the Doctor. But I also I really connected with Ace when she was like, I don't sing, I don't dance, because neither do I don't play an instrument. And again, her relationship with Susan is just so nice. And it does feel really weird saying Ace and Susan, because I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's something I would have loved to have actually seen, was Ace and our Susan, as it were. But I really liked it. Did she drive a whole lot of plot? Not really. Again, we do get a little bit of the Doctor kind of using her as a weapon. Sort of criticizing her a little bit for the fact that the Nitro 9 she used didn't actually kill the fucking dog. Which was surprising. But also, having Ace be the one to get the fire poker going and leaving her manage all that with the Candyman. I would have liked to have seen more of a reaction from Ace to the Candyman.
Yeah.
Because either breaking her whole laughing or just being genuinely really freaked out, I think would have been really nice. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really good performance by Sophie. Is it Ace's strongest story? No, there isn't really a whole lot for her to do. But again, you do have the sewer dwellers sort of getting more actively involved because of her. So you do have that sort of her sort of inspiring others.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see. Again, is it her strongest performance? No. But it is a solid one in terms of acting.
Yeah.
And with what she was given, she did a lot. And there's a lovely little moment that happens at one point. It's the Happiness Patrol put a red hair bubble on the end of her plait or something. And Ace's hair, the front part of her hair just sort of falls out of her plait for a little bit. And it makes her look so much softer. Because obviously Ace usually has her hair tied back quite tight. And kind of similar to last week when we saw her with her hair down after her shower. There's something very naive and very youthful about Ace when she has a little bit of muss to her hair.
Yeah.
That really helps drive, that emotional core a lot better. It's something, the way Sophie plays it or something, I don't know. It makes her look a lot younger and a lot more innocent. And so it makes her moral stance on things sort of hit a bit more, I think.
Yeah.
Than it does when her hair is tied back. I don't know what it is. It's just something about the framing of her when her hair is like that. But it really sort of hits really true to who Ace is.
Yeah.
And I said that's the one thing about this story. I think it very much shows you who Ace is and what she's about. And the fact that she could have been a total dick to Susan Q. She could have been a total asshole to her, but she wasn't. She listened to Susan and then became friends with her. And, she didn't judge her for the fact that she was in the Happiness Patrol this whole time. And you could tell she was trying to get through to Priscilla. Obviously that wasn't working, and Daisy Kaye's just a psycho anyway. But she could have been an asshole to Susan, but she wasn't, and that because that's not who Ace is. Ace isn't just an asshole for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think her performance was great. And yeah, choke up another good one for Sophie.
Yeah, and to your point about her not being, more shocked or something by the Candyman's appearance, I'm surprised that she didn't try to eat him, seeing as how the Doctor apparently starves Ace. Like the fucking 4 bacon sandwich. The last time. And I asked my wife about how many slices of bread make up 4 sandwiches, and she went, 8? Yeah. So, and again, like, she had the whole fuck. Who the fuck is ordering 4 bacon sandwiches?
For herself.
Yeah, like
Do you know what I mean?
a starving child. Yeah. But yeah, like very kind of like Simpsons-esque in this. Actually, there's an awful lot of Simpsons stuff running through my head because of this. Like, first of all, like, there's the whole Candyman thing about saying, like, I make sweets that people will like die for. I think you were saying about the whole ephemeral thing. All I could think was like Homer eating all the donuts, you know. So you like donuts, eh? And then there's like the bit which I mentioned about the music and like how it made Trevor feel kind of like, I feel kind of sad now, but in a good way. I just remember like Bleeding Gums Murphy saying like the blues isn't about making yourself feel better, it's about making other people feel worse. So yeah, an awful lot of stuff in this particular episode.
But let's move on to our prominent characters. So we have the main members of the Happiness Patrol. Again, just to point out, the Happiness Patrol aren't all women.
Yeah,
they are predominantly women.
Yes.
And the women hold the higher positions of authority within the Happiness Patrol. So we have Susan Q, Priscilla P, and Daisy K. So I'll leave it to you to either talk about them one at a time or talk them as a group. But what were your thoughts on the Happiness Patrol themselves?
So last week I got on my soapbox a small bit about how, at the time of recording, Remembrance of the Daleks was a very timely story. Here, Happiness Patrol is also kind of timely because the Happiness Patrol is a governmental agency that is set up and is recruited to act as law, even though technically the colony should have its own form of law enforcement, but this is a separate thing, or it's a new one that's set up. And it is populated by people that would not make it in any other form of law enforcement whatsoever. So I think logically, I would start with the prominent character and shifting towards the villains aspect of it. But I don't want to get progressively angry as this goes on. So I'll start off with the ones that I didn't like, or the ones that will piss me off, and then I'll move on to the one that is more prominent. So I'll start off with Priscilla. Now, firstly, I have to say, I'm so used to seeing that actress as Edith from Brand the Buds of May, who's like this sweet-natured woman that lives in the Kentish countryside. To see her playing a murderous, psychotic, other, something-ish, puntish type person. So it's a bit of a shock, But first of all, fantastic job by Rachel Bell playing this role. This like this disdain and also this really cold, calculating, controlled psychopathy, or it's like sociopathy, sorry, that is Priscilla. It's just amazingly well done. But because like Scylla is a perfect representation of a person that has served in, be it the armed forces or law enforcement or whatever, because she said that she was in an anti-terrorism task force before. But now they're coming into this other agency that has been given carte blanche by the administration or the government to basically do what you fucking want. And she's loving life because like she gets to hunt down people that she views as unworthy or lesser than, and the fact that she's essentially like made, at the end of the story, her and Daisy and all the other ones are just made into like a fucking school detention group by going clean up the paint and all this type of shit. It's a bit like, I'm not saying give them a firing squad at the end of the episode, like, but at the same time I would have like rather seen something that is a bit more strict in its punishment, because the type of person that Priscilla represents is real, and unfortunately that person does not always receive the justified punishment that they are meant to get. So it's sad. It's annoying. Daisy pisses me off for an entirely different reason, because Daisy is the type of person that, again, we're seeing these ones that love the regime, and they love the power that it gives, and they adhere to everything so fucking rigidly that there's no room for critical fucking thinking whatsoever. Because like there's the bit there which is like when Silas wakes up after being knocked out by Earl, he goes, "Oh, you look sad," and she kills him. Like it's a case of like the guy's just fucking gotten up, he's pissed off, and you shot him immediately. And then there's like, then you kind of counteract that with the bit where it's the doctor's at the forum, and he's like, "They can't do anything to me because I'm happy, see?" And it's like going, like, according to your law, you know that he is a killjoy, but just because he's putting on a fucking song and dance technically means that he shouldn't be whatever. So like kind of on the flip side things, like going, you know that the guy has just been knocked out, so you're just basically going power mad with this whole fucking thing. Also at the end, she doesn't realize that Helen is going to fucking essentially sell her out by saying, "You wait here, wait for further orders while I go into this room with my briefcase," very mysteriously for no reason whatsoever. So yeah, like these like toady-ish people that love the system, like love what the system gives them, without thinking of the ramifications for them if they fall out of favor. And then we have Susan. And Susan is kind of representative of the type of person that is trapped by the system. Because like you and I both know that it's an unfortunate thing where people can't always live by we're living in a day and age at the moment where we can't live just by our morals. We have, like, we've got bills to pay and we have families to provide for, and like it is very well for us to have, like, to be able to have platforms where we can like lend our vocal support or whatever to causes that we believe in. But unfortunately, in order to sustain ourselves and sustain people that rely on us, we have to kind of work within the system, and it can be a bit bleak. And that's why I really empathize with Susan, because she is a person that, for whatever reason, is trapped by she doesn't believe in the cause anymore. She doesn't believe in the happiness patrol, and she's seen friends and loved ones and whatever get taken away by it. But she can't get out of it. No, she's kind of gotten to the stage where she's like, "What? Fuck it, just do it. Just get rid of me." But she clearly had people that she had relying on her, which is why she couldn't leave the system before then. And it's, as I said, it is very timely because, like, the people, I was talking to a friend of mine about it today, about just different things, and it's like, there are people who can afford to leave the system but don't want to because they're happy with what it gives them. And then there are people that want to leave the system but they can't because in order for the people that rely on them to survive, they need to stay within the system to do it. And hopefully in a couple of years' time, we will go back to like a time where we kind of felt not as oppressed or put down upon by the fucking the way of the world, you know? But yeah, I know this has gotten kind of very heavy all of a sudden, but I think that's what I've always loved about Doctor Who and science fiction, is that, and again, like Star Trek is another great example of it. It's taking the modern world and pushing it into the future, where all that shit is apparently in the past, and from a futuristic point, we can see summarize the outright stupidity of what's going on in the world at the moment, and aspire for something better. And that's why I like Doctor Who, because it does that. Like, it did it very well during the Barry Letts era. And I will say at times we do, even though I do not like John Nathan Turner's style or his product, like him as the showrunner, at times we get gems of discussion like this. So yeah.
Cool. So I'll do them in the same order just for clarity. So in terms of, the most villainous, I would disagree that it's Priscilla.
Okay.
Priscilla, to me, comes across as someone who loves doing her job. She loves her job. She loved when she worked in anti-terrorism. She loves her job. The difference between her and Daisy Kay is Daisy Kay wants to advance in her job. Priscilla, not so much. Priscilla is quite content working in the waiting zone or working on a patrol. And yeah, she turned on Daisy Kay because by their doctrine or whatever, Daisy Kay looked unhappy. And so a fight breaks out between the two of them, and Priscilla, the bigger and stronger one, Priscilla won. I do feel a bit for Priscilla, though, because when later on in the story, Helen A is basically like, well, you're in the waiting zone, so wait, basically saying, well, I picked Daisy over you, even though all Priscilla has done is do her job. That's all she's done. Yeah, she got overpowered at one point and the Doctor and Ace escaped, but all she did was do her job. And she, to me, going to your sort of analogy that you were using a while ago, she, to me, is that person who takes up a job for whatever reason. Right? Maybe she wanted to hurt people. Maybe she just wanted the power. There's a number of different reasons why she could have taken it up. Only to then be undone by the system itself. Right? And not to beat around the bush, right? I'm sure there are members of ICE who signed up for good reasons and terrible reasons and whatever. And the Trump administration's decisions have fucked those people up the ass. They thought they were doing right for their country for whatever reason they deemed that to be. And Trump's decisions have fucked them up the ass. And that to me is who Priscilla is. It's the person who believes in the structure, believes in her job and what she's doing and her place in that structure. She doesn't crave advancement. She does her job and then gets shafted by the system. And it's representative in many ways of, the sort of the example we were given, like, oh, you're surprised the lion ate your face.
Yeah.
And that's who Priscilla, I think, really represents in that. She never thought it would come for her. Because she did her job. And I feel a little bad for her in that way. And, I mean, as much as you can for someone who is essentially a horrible person.
Yeah.
But you feel a little bit bad for her because in her mind, she was doing everything the way she was meant to. She followed all the rules that she was meant to follow, and she did it to a T, and yet Daisy Kay still got picked over her. And she was the one told, well, you're just a bug, so stay where you are, little bug. You know what I mean? As opposed to getting any sort of praise, not promotion, but just praise for what she'd done. Then we have Daisy Kay, who to me is the worst because not only does she believe in the system, but she wants to run it.
Yeah.
And I disagree with you a bit on what you were saying about how Helen A sort of got one past her and she knew Helen A she wanted fucking Helen A to leave. Because if Helen A is gone, there's a vacuum. And who better to fill the vacuum than Daisy Kay? Daisy Kay, who latches onto the slightest hint of unhappiness.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
So, like, you said that you had it with your man,
what's the Silas?
Yeah. That, like, he just woke up from being knocked out. And because there wasn't an immediate smile on his face, and because Daisy's fucking angry because this whole doctor fucking shit, takes him out.
Yep.
Then later on, when she's with Helen A, she's constantly watching Helen. Waiting for anything where Daisy's like, you're not following your own fucking rules. Do you know? It's very reminiscent in a way of, and I'll get this more in my overall, but things like Equilibrium.
Yeah.
Or V for Vendetta. And Daisy Kay is very much that person who's constantly watching to see, are the higher-ups breaking? Because if a higher-up breaks, I can take their position. And I think, there's something to be said about grunts, as we would call them in fiction, in a world like this, who, like the two boys who were up between the snipers and stuff like that, who are doing their job and who like their job. They like that they get to hurt people or whatever. But I think the real sociopathy, or as you're saying, comes from those who not only are happy to live in the system on the side of power, but who want to advance it and who want to run it. And that's what Daisy Kay really is. And then we have Susan. And part of me is like, Petal, how did you get caught up in all of this? Because she says that she's in the Happiness Patrol. A lot of her friends have disappeared. She's clearly, again, if we're going down the line of using certain administrations as examples, obviously this is meant to be the Thatcher era.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about that era. I was like 1. But I know about our current era, right? Susan, to me, strikes me as someone who heard about this Happiness Patrol thing, felt like it was a place that she could fit in. Clearly, she comes across as quite a happy person. Like, in her youth, you get the sense that she probably was really bubbly and happy, and that this was a place for her to fit in. But she had her eyes opened. But unfortunately, in the system, there's no way for her to leave. So the only thing she can do is play the part for as long as she can, until finally she can't play it anymore. And it's very, very sad that she says that this is the happiest night of her life. That she's going to die. She's happy she's going to die because she'll be out of this misery. She won't have to deal with her friends disappearing and her knowing that they're dead. She won't have to be part of all that. But then you do get the final moment where she's been taken away from the waiting zone, where you're like, she doesn't want to die. She really doesn't. No. Do you know what I mean? And it really breaks your heart because, yes, she was part of the system, but she was also a victim of it. And that's the difference between her and Priscilla and between her and Daisy Kay. Those two are both happy to be where they are. We don't know why Susan joined, but she's now trapped in this somewhat abusive relationship. Yeah. And she can't leave. And it makes us empathize with her all the more.
And I think this, maybe the slight disagreement I might have with you is like, you said that the way that you're describing her there now, like that, I know. Your analogy about Priscilla being the person that thought they were doing the right thing and has been fucked up. I think that's the Susan character, because some of the stuff that Priscilla was saying about how I used to love go out at night and hunting them down, all the people that were. Now you could say that there's the element of like getting swept up in the brainwashing and the whole thing of like, oh, you're being told everything is lesser than. But I think it's the fact that she continues to enjoy punishing people, whereas you're thinking about the person that joins it for the cause that they think is right and ends up being fucking shafted for it. I think that's the Susan dynamic.
I think there's a time difference there that you're not accounting for.
Okay.
Priscilla's at the start of that journey. Susan is at the end of that journey. And the difference between the two is that Susan actually cares about other people and Priscilla doesn't.
Okay.
So Priscilla only now is the system turning on her. She was blind to it before. It turned on her fucking years ago. She was blind to it before.
Yeah.
Whereas Susan, I mean, I got the vibe that it was years, maybe.
Oh yeah, like it's been like a while, like.
So this turned on her years ago, and she's had to live in it, whereas Priscilla didn't have to live in it. And that to me is the difference between the two, is that there's a time gap there. Could Priscilla eventually become like Susan? I don't think so.
No. Because
she doesn't have the moral center for it. Yeah. She'd become indignant in herself, but she wouldn't be helping other people like Susan would, in my mind. She wouldn't, because she doesn't have the heart, she doesn't have the emotional connection to other people that Susan does. And that's where Susan is, where I feel a bit bad for Priscilla, because in her mind, she did everything right. But where obviously your sympathy lies with Susan, because she knows that what she's doing isn't right, but she knows that she doesn't have any other choice.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of difference between the two of them. The one thing I will say about the Happiness Patrol in general, and this really goes to everyone in pink, because they all wear pink. But so the Happiness Patrol, the Fingermen, for lack of a better word, because that's essentially who they are, the snipers or whatever. None of these people are actually fucking happy at any point in the story. I think Daisy Kay gets certain brief moments of happiness where she thinks she's fucked over somebody else. But like from the beginning, I was like, none of them are particularly happy. I'm like, it's a very weird thing where I think if we were to do this story now, they'd all be behaving a little bit demented.
Yeah.
A bit like they're on laughing gas.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the ladies playing these roles, they tried their damnedest, and the guys as well, they tried their hardest, but it's very hard for you to play happy while also playing evil.
I think so. For the likes of like Silas, I think it's happiness through fear because he's afraid of being demoted, or he's afraid of failing, or whatever like that, or afraid of upsetting the power. With Daisy, I think it's happiness, but again, fear of not getting the power that she wants. Whereas I think Priscilla is genuinely happy until she starts getting fucking, going, okay, you're the sub for Daisy.
Yeah, but in the sense of like, the way that Helen describes it, when you smile, and when these women never fucking smile.
Yeah.
For the entire 3 episodes.
Yeah.
They very rarely smile. And neither do the background characters playing the other Happiness Patrol members. And that's where I think that had you shot this now, there would have been a sort of a Joker and fucking Harley Quinn sort of psychosis.
Yeah, it's not genuine happiness. Like I think Helen is probably the only one that is genuinely happy.
Yeah, but the fact that it's not genuine happiness, it doesn't come across as fake happiness either. Because they're not being happy enough.
Yeah.
For me to think that they're the Happiness Patrol. Again, I think, if you were to make it now, you would probably put a bit more of a Joker style, like almost the way the Doctor is when he's on the steps of the Forum.
Yeah.
That's what I expected them all to be throughout the story, and they weren't. And I was like,
yeah,
let's look in a mirror. Like, none of you look happy. But let's move on to the true villains of the piece. The orchestrator, Helen A, and her sweet maker of death, the Candyman. So again, Paddy, I'll leave it to you which one of those you would like to do first.
Sure, we'll go with the Candyman first, and then we'll go to Helen, I suppose. Now, look, I'm not a huge fan of Licorice All Shorts, but I think this takes hatred of them a bit too far.
Sorry, it sounded like you said Licorice All Shorts.
Yep, that's what I said. I did, because that H snuck in there. I told you, Kerry. But yeah, so like, Christ, the Candyman. It's like, okay, I get that. Like, it's always kind of interesting to do like an aesthetic addition to like an animatronic character, but this one is just so weird because, like, we find out at the end randomly that Gilbert built the Candyman, and it's like, okay, does Gilbert have the sweet fetish, or is it like Helen, or when he gained sentience, like did Candyman like want his like going, I like sweets, therefore I'm going to make myself out of sweets? Also, why would you build yourself out of something that there are so many things that could go wrong? Like, you could get too hot and melt. You could get sticky because of carbonated drinks. There could be an ant infestation. Paddy and Tricia could go on a midnight pick and mix run. Like, there's so much that could go wrong. Yeah, we've done it before, people. We'll do it again. The pick and mixing, not eating an animatronic sweet person. But anyway, but like, it's so weird. And like,
so if I can add a little bit of context.
Yeah.
So Gilbert made the Candyman. The Candyman didn't make himself.
Yeah. No, like
so Gilbert had the bones from his previous planet.
Yeah.
And he brought them to this planet. And if you pay attention, Terra Alpha is essentially the sweet factory of the universe. Because they're constantly going about the sugar fields.
Yes.
This whole planet's infrastructure is based around they create sweets.
Yeah.
That's their thing. So what Gilbert had access to was sweet molds.
Okay.
And fuck ton of sugar.
I don't know. Like,
and I think it's Helen A that has the major sweet tooth.
Yeah, probably.
And probably insisted that the Candyman was because you see her that she's constantly eating like bonbons or something off her desk.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So yeah, no, that right, that's but it's like, okay, cool, I get it. But it's I was going to say, like, I don't know if there's a whole lot of substance to the Candyman as a character outside of, fucking baking sugar and whatever else. I honestly, look, I'm kind of lost for what to say about it because he's too distracting and too over the top to be a unique villain. Like, his image is what makes him unique. There is nothing unique about his methodology, about his motivations. There's nothing unique about his interactions with the Doctor. It's like stuff that we've seen 100 times before. This is just a gimmicked version of it. So, yeah, like the Candyman kind of, for this, serves one purpose, which is to make as much fun of the Candyman as at all possible.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I watched this story and I literally sat there going, what the fucking hell is this?
Yep. I think you sent me. I think you sent me a picture.
You feel like you're on some sort of a fucking acid trip or something watching it, right? What the hell was that and why? So the thing is that, like, ever since I watched this story, the other week, I've just had the song "The Candyman" from Willy Wonka going around in my brain, right? So there are two distinct Candymans in pop culture aside from this one.
Okay.
You have the Candyman from Willy Wonka.
Yep.
And the song that's now going round and round in my brain.
Yeah.
And you have Candyman. If you say his name 3 times in a mirror, he will appear.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have this fucking nightmare fuel. I'm like, I don't know who's scarier. The guy who pops out of the mirror or the guy made of licorice all sorts. But I think what makes him even more annoying is the fucking voice.
Yeah.
It's like some sort of Gilbert Gottfried fucking impression. And it's just...
It's a Gilbert Gottfried impression, but done on, like, when you speed up a tape and you get the chipmunk sound effect?
Do you know what it reminds me of? Did you ever watch the animated Thumbelina?
No.
Okay. It's not great. But Gilbert Gottfried plays like a fucking beetle or something in that, and that's what the voice reminded me of. Right? Where I think they should have gone with the Candyman, and you're going to get an aha moment the minute I say it, Paddy, is the Candyman should have been human, or human-esque, and should have been like the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I was thinking that, like, when you were saying, like, about there was the Willy Wonka, I was like, well, it's just like a demented version of the Willy Wonka Candyman.
So the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang uses sweets as tools to draw people in, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I think they should have gone with this character. As opposed to him being a man made of candy, he should have been a crazy man who uses, like, even just the premise of he creates candy that kills people. He uses your indulgence. That's all really fascinating and really interesting. Just have him be human, for fuck's sake. Why is he made? All sorts.
But he couldn't be the child catcher because he creeps you the fuck out, and that's why I don't do impressions of him.
True, but I think in this story, had they lifted and shifted the child catcher from Chitty Bang Bang into this story, into that position, with the fucking killer fondue surprise and whatever, I think it actually could have worked really, really well. Instead, we have the licorice all sorts man, Sarah Gilbert Gottfried, undone by lemonade and an oven that he works with on a daily fucking basis.
Yep. Don't look for logic in this. Also, like, because I think you said fondue as opposed to fondant, so I was kind of going, okay.
I said fondant.
I think you said fondue. But no, because
in my brain I said fondant,
yeah,
therefore that's all
okay,
that matters.
Okay, fair enough. Because now, as opposed to death by diabetes, it's death by lactose intolerance. Yeah.
I mean, fondue would also kill me, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a concept,
yeah,
in a world of perpetual happiness, the fact that sweets are used to kill people is interesting.
Yeah.
Having the Candyman be, and also it's Candyman with a K.
Yep.
Which is why. Be made of, and why licorice all sorts?
Like, again, like, I think it's just taking licorice to like hatred to a fucking whole new level, and all
they're vile anyway. Like Dolly Mix, way better.
Oh yeah,
it's just the fondant.
Jesus.
But yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. I really wish they'd gone with the writer's original idea of, if we're going to have them be made of sweets, have it be just like this sort of white sheen, again, kind of marshmallowy.
Or what they could have done is, because this, like, Johnny Turner's era has shifted towards a kind of a more American aesthetic, and he has like either American actors or people putting on American accents. He should have just gone the whole hog and fucking hired Sammy Davis Jr. to be like a demented fucking person continually singing the Candyman in it.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we can both agree that as a villain, the Candyman kind of fails.
Yeah.
And then we have Miss Helen A.
Yes.
Or Mrs. Helen A. I'm not quite sure.
Who knows? There's something very Umbridge about her. But she's not as intimidating. I know that's not to say that Sheila Hancock is a bad actress, but like, you know, Imelda Staunton. I always get like, I can tell them apart physically, Imelda Staunton and Celie Emery, but the names like smashed together in my head. Yeah, but like, she's not as intimidating as Umbridge, because I think her over the top attitude is a bit too over the top. Like the happy joy thing that she puts out. And like, look, again, there's an interesting thing with her because of the fact, like, she's a dictator, a tyrant, whatever way you want to put it there. And she doesn't, obviously, like a lot of dictators, she doesn't like anyone challenging her power. But it's more interesting in the sense of, we've seen a lot of leaders that people that don't like challenge their power because they like power. You know, they like power of life and death, or they like the ability to make lots of fucking money so that they can retire into the sunset or whatever. Helen's whole thing is like going, oh, I can't be arsed dealing with people complaining all the time. Just fucking kill them so like I can have a nice, easy job. And it's like, okay, so that's what the challenge is. You don't like people having dissenting opinions because you can't be arsed doing anything to make people happier genuinely, so you threaten them to be happy. Like, okay, interesting. But I think the fanatical following that she's created in the likes of Daisy Kay and in the likes of, we've kind of seen it before, where either the idea of the villain is scared in the villain, the regime that she has created is actually scared in her. It is like the whole concept of life on Terra Alpha has just like fucking evolved beyond the need for Helen A to run it. Like, as you say, like Daisy Kay could fucking take it over and it would run, Jesus Christ, even possibly worse, you know? So yeah, like, it's, look, I think Sheila Hancock did a good job. And like, again, it's this character that is over the top and silly and has a really, really loving affection to a psychotic murder dog. But, you know, who doesn't? But yeah, so I think, again, we're kind of seeing, kind of like we had, was it Delta and the Bannerman, where I said like Gavrock was, the idea of him was more intimidating than actual Gavrock himself. Whereas here, like, yeah, it's like the idea of Helena and her ideology of what it has created is more intimidating and more scary than her.
I would disagree a small bit. I think Helena is quite intimidating.
Okay.
Because of how she reacts to people. So even you have, so she's promoting Silas P giving her the patch, and he corrects her, and you can tell she's like, "Oh, don't correct," because like the regime that she's created is terrifying, but how she wields it is also quite terrifying. I think that's the difference between her and Daisy K. Daisy K thinks that she could wield it. I don't think Daisy K could. I don't think she could wield it as well. And maybe because she's Sheila Hancock, and I find Sheila Hancock slightly scary 99% of the time. I've just never seen her. I've never seen Sheila Hancock in a performance or in an interview, bar maybe the behind the sofa, where she's like a happy, positive person. She's always biting, and she's always quite cynical.
You still have childhood trauma like me from 3 Men and a Little Lady, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I had that, but from Fiona Shaw.
I think Sheila Hancock is very well positioned in this role. I think she plays it really well. I get a little bit of the Thatcher-esque nature from her. The thing I find interesting about Helena is that she's kind of a combination of Dolores Umbridge, like you said, and Miss Trunchbull. In the sense of Miss Trunchbull, in the sense of to be strong, you have to be masculine in a way, or you have to hide your emotions in a way. So if you think about the Trunchbull, she leans more into the masculine side of things, but she very much like hides her emotion. And if you cry, it's silly. What are you crying for? What does that benefit you? Type of thing. And that's where Helena really is as a character. She has a little bit of the sickly sweet nature. It's not quite as sickly sweet as Dolores, because Helena herself is putting on an act, whereas Dolores is just psychotic. And we know it's an act because of the love she has for Fifi. She has this whole album of just pictures of her and her dog. So like your man is clearly like her husband or something.
Yeah.
Couldn't give a shit about him.
No.
So I think, is this the best performance in the history of ever? No. Is the best written character in the history of ever? No. Is she the best villain character in this story? For me, yes. And I think, look at this through the female lens of women in power being criticized for showing emotion, women in the workplace being criticized for being overly emotional, for crying, for being anything but prim and proper and happy, and anything but firm when needs be. I think it says a lot, and that's what Thatcher was a lot like that. Stiff upper lip and all that bollocks. And I think from a female point of view, Helena kind of represents everything that women are told they have to be in order to succeed. What are you crying for? Stop that. You can't be successful if you're crying all the time. You can't be successful if you're overly emotional. Do you know? Like, I know, like, through work and stuff, like, how many times have you seen or heard of someone in a meeting with their manager where they just start crying? They're not sad, they're not even upset, but they're frustrated. And when women get frustrated, we cry. We can't fucking help it, but we feel bad about it because men see it as a weakness. Do you know? And Helena is one of those characters where I'm kind of really curious as to, like, you know, she clearly has fucking daddy issues or something. Do you know? But I think she's a really interesting representation of what happens when women don't show their emotion. Because in the end, she's completely undone by the death of Fifi. She's completely distraught. And it all comes out in one go. And so I kind of rambled a bit for it, but I think she's an interesting villain. I disagree with you that like the regime is bigger than her. I disagree with you on that front. Is it Sheila Hancock's best performance? No, of course fucking not. But I think she was probably the most interesting part of the story for me. Was Helena and how she got to be who she was.
Okay.
And it just reminds me of, like, I'm going to a meeting on Tuesday, and the one thing I keep telling myself is don't fucking cry. Don't fucking cry. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get angry. You're going to get upset. Do not fucking cry. Because the minute you cry, you lose all. You're just, oh, the woman cried. Fuck. That's what I wanted. And that's what Helena sort of screams to me.
Yeah.
Is do not fucking do that. Do not weaken yourself.
No, I get that. And like, I think actually, maybe not so much daddy issues, but maybe more of a mommy dearest type thing. Like, in the sense of like, this is how like women should behave type thing. Whereas, again, kind of just raiding against that because she can see why behaving in such a way. Like, again, like it's, if you're told to kind of sit there and put up with things, again, like, so sit there and just like put up with the fact that people are constantly giving out and people all this blah blah blah, and then like I think like her overcorrection to kind of go no fucking forced happiness, as opposed to like trying to, like, it is the thing that you can't make everyone happy no matter what you try and do. You'll never be able to make everyone happy. I think it's as true for fucking 5 people as it is for 500 people. But yeah, like the whole thing of like it really fucking pisses me off when, kind of going off topic from Doctor Who but more into the real world scenario, it really fucking pisses me off when, from the male perspective, you have women giving out to women for crying in emotional fucking situations. And it's like, that feels kind of very fucking counterintuitive because like this is the thing now, and like I don't speak for every fucking guy under the sun because you know me, I'm very, like, I don't really have a whole problem with crying. Like, from my perspective, like, you have seen me cry in movies, you have seen me cry in TV shows, you like, and like there are, I fucking, one time I was on an interim assignment and I found out that the interim was being cut earlier than I had anticipated. And like, for me to be able to handle certain situations, I need to be able to mentally prepare myself. And this thing was cut out from under me by, I think, a whole month. And I hadn't prepared myself mentally for it. So I had to go into a room and like, I was just I kind of broke down a small bit. And you have seen me break down in certain situations as well. I hate the fact that nowadays we're living in a fucking thing where like, even like when like, everyone seems to tear people down for crying when it's just like a fucking natural thing here. And it's like the doctor said, is that happiness can't exist without sadness. Because like, so this whole thing, if you're going to crime people for crying, or if you're going to, for like showing emotion or being upset, then the world is a very fucking kind of shitty place, you know? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does.
Right. So, I don't know about you, but this conversation has gotten very differently than what I think maybe I was expecting, and maybe both of us were expecting, based on just like pop culture references to the Happiness Patrol and what it looks like on the surface side of things. But now we will get a chance to give our final thoughts on this. So this is the overall section where myself and Trish will each give the story a score of 5 along with our parting comments. So they do the socials, do the characters first, and they do the characters first, do the overall first, which is me. So this is a weird one. As I said, it's very timely, but it's also very weird. And I can also see why it confuses with the Paradise Towers, because there are certain elements that are very similar, be it the Kangs or the Happiness Patrol or the weird isolated totalitarian fucking regime that's going on, the sweets, kind of all not quite cannibalism, but still fucking weirdness. Um, I think I'll talk about the stuff that I liked first of all, which is I like the surprisingly dark tone underneath all the bright colors of this story.
Mm.
It's really interesting to me. It's like sort of like a weird 2000 AD comic, and Sylvester like giving out about the quality of the sets and having. I would have liked to seen it done black and white, not to hide any sort of like poor set design or anything like that, but the lighting and the sets kind of remind me of those like old BBC Saturday afternoon productions of a Shakespeare play, like kind of like a weird stripped back version of it, like the one that Ian McKellen did for Macbeth, or the one like that Derek Jacobi would do as well. Like, so I like that kind of stripped back, slightly David Lynch-esque thing they had going on. Again, as I said, it looks like a kind of slightly weird 2000 AD comic. I recently had a conversation with someone about the like we've like you and I have talked before about we're living in a time now where media reviewing is leaning more towards the negative side of things for like grifting and financial all that kind of stuff. And then I think I have gone into certain spaces on like social media platforms to try and find a more positive interaction with stuff, but I've seen the pendulum swing the other way, where there is forced positivity, and you can't. Like, I remember someone asked, "Oh, in your opinion, what do you make of this season?" And I said, "Look, in my opinion, I think this was particularly weak. I didn't like that. Didn't whatever." So I got a 30-day ban, and I asked like why, and they said, "Oh, because you gave like a negative a thing." I said, "No, like." We were asked our opinion, and I gave my opinion. I said my personal feelings on the thing. I didn't say anyone else was bad for was wrong for thinking that something was good. I just said for me, in answer to the question, I didn't think it was whatever. But you were like going, yeah, but we like to have positivity, and it's going, okay, that's forced positivity, and that's what we see here. Is like it's forced positivity run amok, mixed with a totalitarian regime, and I like stories that have that thing. Like, it's where you bring in a political aspect into it, you bring in a social aspect into things, and it really engages me. So I like that. I like those themes within the story. I liked Sylvester and Ace's performance. I thought they were really good. I liked. I think I liked the majority of the guest appearances. I think the only ones that they really worked for me were Trevor's and the Candyman's performance. Like, and like the guy that played Gilbert, I just love him from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So like that kind of won me over. But I think the ones playing the Happiness Patrol, like so Daisy and Priscilla and Susan, they were really good. Earl was just kind of there, not really a whole lot. But I think for the most part, the performances were actually quite good. They did engage me. For the stuff that didn't work though, is that the pacing is kind of rushed. It's like you can really, it really feels like they are actually on a set here as opposed to within a city, because literally it's like the Mystic Knights of Chernobyl. In 5 minutes, they're in a complete, like not even 5 minutes, they've managed to walk an entire city area in 30 seconds, because they'll have just escaped from a tunnel and they're somehow back at the forum, or they'll have turned around the corner and they're back in the lab. So like everything feels really rushed, which is kind of frustrating, because there's a lot of stuff that's really poorly developed, in the sense of, okay, you pointed out there Trevor's whole thing of like, oh well, the bureau has hit the numbers. I was like, okay, but the direction here is really weird, because like, does the bureau know what's going on? because why would they have a guideline in terms of executions? Like, oh, if one execution fails, you can't use it anymore. It's like, okay, so they know that there's executions going on, or do they not know? Are you just turning a blind eye because you want to get the fuck out of here? It's kind of very poorly developed. The same way with the creatures in the tunnel. It's like, okay, I kind of like them and their weird interactions with Ace, but like, are they the original natives on the planet? Have they been subjugated? Are they the workers? Because the doctor says, oh, they can now go back to the sugar fields. It's like, were they never allowed in the sugar fields? Like, are they slaves?
My read on that is that yes, they were the natives. This is a colony.
Yeah.
And so they were the natives that were there first, and they were driven underground.
Okay.
And the sugar fields are their native habitat.
Yeah. No, look, I don't need everything spoon fed to me, but at the same time, I would like, as you say, this is a colony. I'd like a small bit of a backstory as to why, like, is there a racial element to this? There probably is, but I'd still like to kind of see it. So also, Gilbert's just, I know, like, there's the whole thing of like, oh, you need me and I need me, and there's little bits peppered here, but the weird info dump of, oh, I'm technically a war criminal and I was exiled from my last planet and I created this guy over here possibly because I was lonely. I don't really like. It's like, okay, that's a very weird info dump to get in the last 10 minutes of the fucking story. At which point you convince Joseph to just ride off with you into the sunset. Cool. I do agree with Graham's point that Helen had to have her breakdown at the end, because to have her walk off into the sunset completely jars the whole message that is meant to be part of this story. So having her break down over Fifi was the right call, and it's really well done, and it is a very, between like Fifi's dying howls and the blues music on in the background, it's very atmospherically good. Now, like a lot of stuff that we do, sometimes my opinion of the story changes as part of our discussion, and it changes the story, and then or my scoring, and I'm like kind of going, the next time I watch this, will I have as much fun enjoying watching it because of, without having to talk to you about it afterwards? Sometimes it's like, in the moment I love talking about it, but then when I go back and watch it, I'm like going, no, this is kind of shit. But no, I actually think that I enjoyed watching this story, and then our conversation kind of cemented the score I want to give it. So I had it straight down the middle of the 2.5, but I think it's better than that. I'm giving it a 3.25. Like, I don't think it's as good as a 3.5, but it's higher than a 3, so I think a 3.25 is where I'd put it in the end. I don't know if I've ever given a story a 3.25.
I think you have. I will scroll up, but I think you have. Or maybe you haven't. You've done 3.75 a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you have done 3.25. I have, I think. Let's see. 3.25. Oh no, you get Fury from the Deep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've had some averages of 3.25. Yeah. I give 3.25 a lot.
Fair enough.
Okay, it's 3.25. So, my thoughts on this story. So, things I liked. I actually liked Helen A as a villain. Again, like I said, I think this idea of, particularly from the female point of view, of a woman in power sort of saying you can't show emotion, you can't show XYZ. I kind of like that. I liked the performances, again, from the vast majority of the Candyman crew, being the only one where the performances are shit. No offense to your man, like, what fucking direction did they give him? I thought the performances were good. I think the premise is interesting.
Yeah.
It's a weird sort of V for Vendetta / Equilibrium vibe. And I like both of those films, so... And yes, I know V for Vendetta was a graphic novel first. I like both of those films, so that I kind of liked. However, I really can't lie. I just don't enjoy the story itself. The whole thing with the Candyman really ruins it for me. It's just ridiculous. And coming off the back of last week, where we had this fantastically big story, a lot happening, and then you get into this, and you're like, it's just because they had no budget. And I'm like, you could have done anything. You had 3 episodes. You could have done any other sort of bottle show. Whereas with this, I just don't think it works. And it's one of the few stories where actually the set design does take me out of the show on a regular basis. The interiors are fine. So the candy
kitchen
lab, or whatever the fuck it is, Helen's office, Helen's outer office, those are fine. But anything in the street, like, they didn't even try to make it look like a street. Do you know? You can see the scuff marks on the fucking studio floor. Like, it's just lazy. And I think that, for me, even with our amazing characters, and like you and I have always said, the characters drive the story for us 99% of the time. But they were given nothing to work with. The sets are really flat. As in, the exterior sets are really flat. Even the forum, the door is painted on. It's not even a real door. Do you know what I mean? And I think it would have been better in black and white. I think it would have hidden a multitude of sins. I think thematically it probably would have worked better as well. I don't know if they had the technology then, but like, can you imagine a sort of Schindler's List style where like only the pink shows and everything else is in black and white or something like that? I think that would have been very, very interesting. But generally, I just didn't enjoy this story as much as I would have wanted to. Main reason being Candyman, the production value really hurt it because it makes no sense. The fact that all this is meant to have happened in one night, also completely unbelievable. We get no sense of the passage of time throughout the night. Fifi gets blown up using Nitro 9, gets bandaged, taken back to Helen's office, and within 20 minutes, Helen's taking the bandages off again. I'm like, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And the only reason I can think of that it was condensed down into one night is because they didn't want to light the set for daytime. They couldn't have it be a 24-hour cycle because they would have had to light the set for daytime. And they didn't want to. And that, to me, is where stories really struggle. When the story is limited because of the set design, that's where I do take the set design into account. There's plenty of stories we've had where the set design has been totally fucking rubbish, but it didn't hold back the story. And here I think it really does. Have I enjoyed this discussion? Yeah. Do I think Helena is an interesting villain? Yeah. Did I like the sort of different dynamics of Susan and Priscilla and Daisy K? Yeah, I thought they were interesting. But like, I wanted to see more. Like, even the fact that Gilbert never looks happy. How the fuck is he still alive? He never looks happy. So like, I think I just wanted more from it. And maybe it's asking for too much. I think what I have in my head is some sort of Stephen King-esque fucking nightmare fuel. I think is what's going on in my brain of how this story should work. But for me, I don't think it's a 3. I think a lot of the issues that are quite personal to me, in the sense of like, I'm sure a lot of people probably could get over the set stuff. So with that in mind, I was going to give it a 2.5. But I give it a 2.75. I don't think it's a 3. I'm never going to rewatch the story again. There's nothing particularly in it that I find fascinating. And it's the one that in this rewatch I was the least looking forward to watching again. Even knowing what's coming at the end of this season, I was looking forward least to watching this one. Even knowing what's coming there. So I'm going to give it a 2.75. And the reason for the slightly higher than 2.5 is I think some of the set design things that pulled me out of the story probably wouldn't pull other people out.
Yeah.
And so I'll give it a little bit of grace on that one. So I'm going with 2.75. So interestingly, that brings your average for the season to 4.13, because obviously you gave last week's Remembrance of the Daleks a 5, and it brings mine to a 3.63. Because I've been 5 below you 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, next story is going to be Silver Nemesis, which is the 25th anniversary story.
Yes.
I have a whole lot of thoughts and comments about that being the 25th anniversary story that we'll talk about next time. But Paddy, any final thoughts or call-outs for our listeners?
Oh, putting me on the spot now. Okay. Couple of things. Always feel free to reach out and have a conversation with us. 2, don't let the weight of the world get you down. There's always people out there that you can talk to about anything. And number 3, it's fucking okay to cry. But until then, people, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.